I woke up in a hospital bed with my wife's kidney inside me and a hand in mine. She saved my life. She literally gave me a piece of herself so I could keep breathing. 3 months later, I found text on her phone that made me wish I'd just fucking died on that operating table instead. She'd been screwing my best friend for 2 years. 2 years. And when I confronted her, you know what she said? "You owe me your life, Marcus. You can't leave me now." So I did the unthinkable. I filed for divorce. Everyone thinks I am a monster. My family won't speak to me. But what they don't know is what else I found. What she was really doing while I was dying, and why saving my life might have been the most selfish thing she ever did. Chapter 1. The first thing I remember after the transplant surgery is Emma's face hovering above mine, tears streaming down her cheeks, telling me everything was going to be okay now. She looked like an angel, my angel, the woman who'd just given me one of her kidneys, so I wouldn't spend the rest of my shortened life hooked up to a dialysis machine 3 times a week. I was 34 years old when my kidneys started failing. Some genetic bullshit nobody saw coming until I collapsed at work one Tuesday afternoon and woke up in the ICU with my wife and my best friend Jake sitting on either side of my bed looking scared shitless. The doctors explained that both kidneys were done, kaput, fucked beyond repair. I needed a transplant, or I was looking at years of dialysis and a drastically shortened life expectancy. Emma didn't hesitate. She got tested the next day. When the results came back showing she was a perfect match, she squeezed my hand and said, "See, we were meant to be together. Even our organs know it." That weird possessive edge in her voice. But I was too busy being grateful and terrified and overwhelmed to notice the red flags that were probably waving right in front of my face the whole time. The surgery happened 6 weeks later. It went perfectly, or so they told me. Emma recovered faster than I did, bouncing back within days while I struggled with the anti-rejection meds and the pain and the weird psychological mindfuck of having a part of another person living inside me. She was there every day, every hour, hovering and fussing and making sure I took my pills exactly on time. My devoted wife, my savior. Jake visited too, bringing takeout and staying to watch sports with me when Emma went to work. He'd been my best friend since college, the kind of friendship where you finish each other's sentences and know each other's bullshit better than your own. He seemed quieter than usual during those visits, more subdued, but I figured he was just worried about me. Everyone was worried about me. It took 3 months before I felt even remotely human again. 3 months of recovery and physical therapy, and slowly rebuilding my strength. Emma was patient, supportive, perfect. She'd wake up early to make me breakfast, lay out my medications, drive me to appointments, everything. I kept telling her I loved her, that I owed her everything, that I'd spend the rest of my life making this up to her. She'd smile and kiss my forehead and say, "You don't owe me anything, baby. That is what love is." I believed her. God, I believed every fucking word. It was a random Thursday afternoon when everything shattered. Emma had gone back to work full-time by then, and I was home alone, finally feeling strong enough to tackle some household projects I'd been putting off. I was looking for the warranty information for our dishwasher, which Emma had mentioned keeping in her home office desk. She'd told me 100 times to make myself at home in there, use whatever I needed, so I didn't think twice about opening her desk drawer. That is where I found the phone. Not her regular phone, the iPhone she carried everywhere. This was an older Android, tucked in the back of the drawer under some folders. The kind of burner phone people use when they're doing shit they don't want traced back to them. My hands were shaking as I turned it on. I don't know what I expected to find. Part of me thought maybe it was an old phone she'd forgotten about, something left over from years ago. But it powered up to a home screen with recent activity, messages from 2 days ago, and my stomach dropped straight through the floor. The messages were to Jake. My best friend Jake, who'd sat by my hospital bed and brought me fucking orange chicken and told me everything was going to be okay. I scrolled through them, my vision blurring, my rebuilt kidney probably rejecting itself from pure shock. The messages went back 2 years, 2 years of "I miss you," and "when can I see you again," and detailed planning of meetups while I was at work or out of town. 2 years of Emma fucking my best friend behind my back while playing the devoted wife to my face. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was the messages from right before my kidney failure was diagnosed. The messages where Emma was complaining about being stuck in a dead-end marriage, about wanting to leave but not knowing how, about wishing something would just happen to force a change. And then, just 2 weeks before I collapsed at work, a message from her to Jake that made my blood turn to ice. I think I figured out a way to make this work. If something happened to Marcus, something serious, I could be the hero, save him. Then he'd be too grateful to ever question anything. We'd have more time. I read that message 17 times, each time hoping I'd misunderstood, that the anti-rejection meds were fucking with my head, that I was hallucinating. But the words didn't change. They just sat there on that screen, damning and clear and unforgivable. I sat on the floor of Emma's office for 2 hours, scrolling through every message on that burner phone, piecing together the full picture of my wife's betrayal. The affair had started shortly after Jake's divorce, when he was vulnerable, and Emma was apparently bored with our marriage. They'd been careful, mostly meeting at hotels or at his place when I thought Emma was working late or having girls' nights. The messages showed planning, coordination, lies stacked on lies. But that one message about making something happen to me, about being the hero, that one kept pulling me back like a scab I couldn't stop picking. Had she done something to me? Had my kidney failure been natural, or had she somehow caused it? I am not a paranoid person by nature, but once that thought entered my head, I couldn't shake it. I started researching, falling down internet rabbit holes about substances that could cause kidney damage, about poisoning, about ways someone could slowly destroy another person's organs without leaving obvious traces. The more I read, the more paranoid I became, and the more that message seemed less like wishful thinking and more like a confession. I didn't confront her that day. I couldn't. I needed time to think, to plan, to figure out what the fuck I was going to do. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it and spent the rest of the afternoon pretending to be normal while my entire world crumbled around me. Emma came home around 6, cheerful and affectionate, kissing me hello and asking about my day. I smiled and lied and felt like I was going to vomit. She made dinner while telling me about some drama at her office, completely oblivious to the fact that I'd just discovered her entire secret life. Or maybe she wasn't oblivious. Maybe she was just that good at lying. We ate dinner together like we had 1,000 times before. She asked if I'd taken my evening meds. I said yes. She smiled and touched my hand and said she was so proud of how far I'd come in my recovery. I wanted to throw my plate across the room. Instead, I waited until she fell asleep, then I took the burner phone and photographed every single message, every text, every photo they'd exchanged, every piece of evidence of their affair. It took me 3 hours, sitting in the bathroom with the door locked. My hands shaking so badly, I had to retake half the photos because they came out blurry. When I was done, I put the phone back and lay in bed next to my wife, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out my next move. I could confront her directly, but I already knew how that would go. She'd cry, apologize, probably blame me for not paying enough attention to her, for being too focused on work, for not being exciting enough. And then she'd play her trump card, the one I'd already heard in my head 100 times. I gave you my kidney. I saved your life. You owe me. The thought made me want to rip her goddamn kidney out of my body and throw it back at her. I spent the next week gathering more evidence. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled woman named Diana, who'd seen every kind of betrayal humans were capable of, and wasn't shocked by anything anymore. I gave her the photos of the messages and asked her to follow Emma, to document the affair, to find out if they were still seeing each other or if it had ended when I got sick. It hadn't ended. Diana's first report came back with photos of Emma meeting Jake at a hotel 3 days after I'd found the phone. 3 days. While she was still coming home to me, still playing the devoted wife, still asking if I'd taken my meds and reminding me about my follow-up appointments. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. I also made copies of all my medical records and sent them to a toxicologist, a specialist Diana recommended who consulted on poisoning cases. I didn't tell him my suspicions directly, just asked him to review the timeline of my kidney failure and tell me if anything seemed unusual or suspicious. He called me back a week later. "Mr. Chen," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "I can't say definitively without more extensive testing, but there are some anomalies in your blood work from the months leading up to your diagnosis. Elevated levels of certain compounds, that could be consistent with exposure to nephrotoxic substances. It is not conclusive, but it is worth investigating further if you have concerns. My blood ran cold. What kind of substances? There are several possibilities. Certain heavy metals, some industrial chemicals, even some plant-based compounds. Without knowing your occupation and environmental exposures, it is hard to say. But the pattern is unusual for spontaneous kidney failure in someone your age with no family history. I thanked him and hung up, then spent the next hour throwing up in the bathroom while Emma was at work. She'd poisoned me. My wife had slowly poisoned me, so she could save me and trap me in a prison of gratitude while she fucked my best friend on the side. When I finally confronted her, it was 2 weeks after I'd found the phone. I'd prepared everything, consulted with a divorce attorney, separated our finances, moved money into an account she didn't have access to. I'd even talked to my doctor about the possibility of finding a different support system, because I knew Emma was going to make my medical care a weapon. She came home from work on a Friday evening, humming to herself, and found me sitting at the kitchen table with the burner phone in front of me and printouts of the messages spread out like playing cards. The colour drained from her face. "Marcus, what? Don't," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what this is." She stood frozen in the doorway, her purse sliding off her shoulder onto the floor. For a long moment she didn't say anything. Then she tried to smile. That same sweet smile she'd been giving me for months. "Baby, I can explain. Did you poison me?" The smile faltered. "What? Number Marcus, no, that is crazy, is it?" I picked up the message about making something happen to me and held it up. Because this message, combined with my medical records and a toxicologist's report, paints a pretty clear picture. Emma's face went through about 15 different expressions in the span of 3 seconds. Shock, fear, indignation, calculation. I watched her decide what strategy to take, saw the exact moment she chose her weapon. She started crying. Big, heaving sobs that shook her whole body. "I can't believe you'd think that about me, after everything we've been through. After I gave you my kidney, Marcus, I gave you a piece of myself so you could live, and you are accusing me of trying to kill you." "Answer the question," I said flatly. "Did you poison me?" "No." She practically screamed it, then collapsed into a chair, her head in her hands. "God, no. Marcus, I would never. That message, I was just venting. I was confused and emotional about Jake, and I said stupid shit I didn't mean. You know how people say things they don't mean when they're upset. For 2 years. You said stupid shit you didn't mean for 2 years while fucking my best friend." She flinched like I'd slapped her. "It wasn't supposed to happen, it just did. Jake and we connected after his divorce, and things got complicated. But I never stopped loving you, Marcus. I never wanted to hurt you." "You are still seeing him," I said. "Even after the transplant. Even after I almost died. You are still sneaking off to hotels to fuck him while I am home recovering from surgery." Her tears stopped as abruptly as they'd started. She looked at me with something cold and hard in her eyes, something I'd never seen before. "What do you want, Marcus? An apology?" "Fine. I am sorry I needed something you weren't giving me. I am sorry I found comfort somewhere else. But I am not sorry I saved your life. I did that. Me. Not Jake. Not your family. Me. I went under the knife and gave you a piece of my body so you could keep breathing. Do you have any idea what that means?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "It means you bought yourself a get-out. Of consequences. Free card. You saved my life so I'd be too guilty to ever leave you. No matter what you did, that message wasn't wishful thinking, Emma. It was a plan, and I think you helped make it happen." She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. "You are insane. The stress of the transplant has made you paranoid and crazy. I am calling your doctor. I already talked to a toxicologist. My blood work shows evidence of nephrotoxic poisoning. And I've documented your affair. I have photos, messages, hotel receipts. I've talked to a lawyer. I am filing for divorce." The room went dead silent. Emma stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You can't," she said finally. "You can't divorce me. I saved your life. Watch me. No one will take your side in this, Marcus. Everyone knows what I did for you. Your family, your co-workers, our friends. They all know I donated my kidney to save your life. and you are going to throw that away because of some text messages. You'll look like a monster, the man who divorced his wife after she saved him. Maybe, I said, but I'll be a monster who is free of you. She laughed, but it was a harsh, ugly sound. Free? You'll never be free of me. Every day for the rest of your life. You'll wake up with my kidney inside you, keeping you alive. Every breath you take, every day you live, it is because of me. You can divorce me, Marcus, but you can't divorce my kidney. We're bonded forever, whether you like it or not. The words hit me like a physical blow because she was right. No matter what I did, no matter where I went or who I became, I'd always carry a piece of her inside me. The woman who'd betrayed me, possibly poisoned me, definitely manipulated me, would be part of my body until the day I died. But I couldn't stay. I couldn't spend the rest of my life with someone who'd use saving me as a form of ownership, who'd turn the most intimate gift one person could give another into a weapon of control. The papers will be served next week, I said. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Don't contact me unless it is through my lawyer. I grabbed the bag I'd already packed and headed for the door. Emma followed me, her voice rising to a shriek. You ungrateful bastard. You'd be dead without me. Dead, and this is how you repay me. I should have let you die on that fucking operating table. I turned back to look at her one last time. Maybe you should have, I said. Would have been kinder than whatever game you've been playing. The divorce was brutal. Emma hired a pitbull attorney, who painted me as an ungrateful sociopath, who'd abandoned his devoted wife after she made the ultimate sacrifice for him. My own lawyer did his best to introduce evidence of the affair and the suspicious circumstances around my kidney failure. But the judge was skeptical. Without definitive proof that Emma had poisoned me, it just looked like conspiracy theories from a bitter husband. My family turned on me almost immediately. My mother called me crying, asking how I could do this to the woman who saved my life. My sister stopped speaking to me entirely. My dad sent a text that just said, "Disappointed doesn't begin to cover it." They didn't want to hear about the affair, about the texts, about any of it. In their eyes, Emma's kidney donation erased all sins. Jake, that fucking coward, disappeared. Blocked my number, moved out of his apartment, vanished like smoke. Emma claimed they'd ended things, that she'd broken it off to focus on saving our marriage, and without Jake to contradict her, there was no way to prove she was lying. The whole process took 8 months. 8 months of court dates and depositions and mediation sessions, where Emma cried and played the victim while I sat there seething, feeling my kidney, her kidney functioning inside me like a ticking time bomb. 8 months of my family treating me like a pariah, of old friends choosing sides, and mostly choosing hers, of having to explain over and over again why I was divorcing the woman who'd saved my life. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in March, almost exactly a year after the transplant surgery. I walked out of the courthouse feeling simultaneously liberated and hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and left just a shell standing. Emma had gotten the house, most of our savings, and a generous alimony payment that my lawyer said was inflated specifically because of the kidney donation. The judge had practically said as much, noting that Emma's sacrifice deserved recognition and compensation. I moved into a tiny apartment across town, unfurnished except for an air mattress and a folding chair I'd bought at Target. Started over from scratch at 35 years old with nothing but a duffel bag of clothes, my laptop, and a kidney that reminded me of my biggest mistake every time I took my anti-rejection meds. The first few months were the hardest. I'd wake up at 3 in the morning, alone in the dark, and I'd think about Emma sleeping in our old bed, maybe with Jake next to her now that she didn't have to hide it anymore. I'd think about the poison, about whether she'd really done it, or if I'd let paranoia turn a vague message into a murder plot. I'd think about my family, about my mother, who hadn't returned my calls in months, about my sister who'd sent a card to Emma's new address, but not mine. Most of all, I'd think about the kidney, the piece of her that I couldn't get rid of, that kept me alive even as everything else fell apart. Some nights I hated it so much I'd consider stopping the anti-rejection meds, just letting my body reject it and be done with this whole nightmare. But I never did. Spite, maybe, or survival instinct, or just not wanting to give Emma the satisfaction of destroying me completely. I started therapy, because clearly I needed it. My therapist, Dr. Reeves, was a quiet woman in her 50s who let me rant for the first 3 sessions without interrupting. On the 4th session, she finally spoke up. "Marcus," she said gently, "I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think about the answer. Do you believe Emma poisoned you?" I opened my mouth to say yes, then closed it. Thought about it. Really thought about it. "I don't know," I admitted finally. "I want to believe it because it makes me less guilty about leaving. If she tried to kill me, then I am justified, right? I am not the asshole everyone thinks I am. But honestly, I don't know. The toxicologist said there were anomalies, but they could have been from a dozen different sources. I worked in construction for years. I was exposed to all kinds of chemicals. It might have been completely natural, just shit luck and bad genetics. And if it was natural, if Emma didn't poison you, if she just had an affair, then I'm the guy who divorced his wife after she saved his life, because she cheated on me," I said bitterly. "Then everyone's right to hate me." Dr. Reeves leaned forward. "Or you are a person who left a relationship where trust was destroyed, regardless of the circumstances around a medical procedure. The kidney donation doesn't erase infidelity, Marcus. It doesn't obligate you to stay in a marriage that was broken. You are allowed to leave, even if it makes you look bad to other people." But that was the thing. It didn't just make me look bad. It made me feel bad, guilty, ungrateful. Like I'd violated some fundamental human contract by accepting her kidney and then rejecting her. The rational part of my brain knew Dr. Reeves was right, that the donation and the relationship were separate things. But the emotional part couldn't separate them. Every day I lived was because of Emma, and I'd repaid her by walking away. 6 months after the divorce, I ran into Jake at a grocery store. I was picking up frozen dinners and beer, the bachelor staples, when I turned a corner, and there he was, standing in the produce section looking at avocados, like he hadn't completely fucked up my entire life. He saw me at the same time I saw him. His face went pale. "Marcus," he said, and it came out like a plea or an apology, or maybe just an acknowledgement that we were two people who used to be friends, and now were nothing. "Don't," I said. I meant to sound angry, but it came out tired instead. "Just don't, Jake." "I am sorry," he said anyway. "For what it is worth, I am sorry." Emma and we ended it. After the divorce finalized, I told her I couldn't do it anymore. The guilt was eating me alive. I laughed, a sharp bark of sound that made an old lady near us jump. "The guilt was eating you alive. That is rich. You fucked my wife for 2 years while I was dying of kidney failure. But sure, you are the victim here. I am not saying I am the victim. I am saying I am sorry. I was a shit friend. I was weak and selfish, and I betrayed you in the worst possible way. If I could take it back, I would. But you can't," I said flatly. "So we're done here." I started to walk past him, but he grabbed my arm. "Did she really do it? Did Emma poison you?" I stopped, looked at him. His eyes were bloodshot, his face haggard. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. "Why do you want to know?" "Because she told me she did," he said quietly. "After the divorce, when things got weird between us, she was drunk one night, and she told me she'd put something in your coffee every morning for months. Some kind of supplement she bought off the dark web that she said would cause kidney damage over time. She said it was the perfect plan, that she'd save you and you'd never leave her, and we could keep seeing each other on the side forever." The grocery store seemed to tilt around me. Jesus Christ. I didn't believe her at first. I thought she was just saying shit to shock me, to make herself seem more dangerous or interesting or whatever. But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. The timing, the way she was so calm during your diagnosis. How quickly she volunteered to donate, like she'd been planning for it. Jake released my arm, running his hand through his hair. "I should have told someone, should have gone to the police or your lawyer or somebody. But I was scared, and I was already in so deep, and I didn't want to believe the woman I'd been sleeping with was capable of that." "Why are you telling me now?" "Because you deserve to know the truth, and because I can't live with this anymore." He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, then held it up. "I recorded her that night. When she confessed, I don't know if it is admissible in court or whatever, but it is proof. She did it, Marcus. She really fucking did it. I didn't listen to the recording right there in the grocery store. I couldn't. I took Jake's phone number, told him to send me the audio file, and then I left my cart in the middle of the aisle and walked out to my car. Saturday there in the parking lot with my hands shaking on the steering wheel, trying to process what I'd just learned. Emma had poisoned me, actually poisoned me, slowly destroyed my kidneys over months so she could play the hero, save my life, and trap me in eternal gratitude while she continued her affair. It wasn't paranoia or spite or wishful thinking to justify my decision to leave. It was real. She'd really done it. The audio file came through an hour later, while I was still sitting in my car. I stared at it for a long time before I finally pressed play. Emma's voice came through tinny and slurred, clearly drunk. "You want to know the truth, Jake?" The real truth. I made him sick. Not all at once, that would have been too obvious. Just a little bit every day. This stuff I found online. Tasteless, dissolves completely in coffee. 6 months of careful doses and boom, kidney failure. Doctors never suspected a thing. Jake's voice shocked. "Emma, what the fuck?" Emma laughing, "Relax. It worked perfectly. I saved him, he is grateful. And now he can never leave me. It is genius when you think about it. And we can still be together, just more carefully. He is so focused on recovery, he barely notices anything anymore." Jake, that is insane. That is attempted murder. Emma, no, attempted murder is when you try to kill someone. I saved him, remember. I am a hero. Everyone says so. The recording ended. I played it 3 more times, then forwarded it to my lawyer with a message. "Call me immediately." The legal aftermath was complicated. The recording wasn't admissible in court because Jake had recorded it without Emma's consent, and our state had 2-party consent laws for recordings. But it was enough to trigger a police investigation. They exhumed old coffee cups from our trash that had been sitting in evidence storage from when they'd done an initial sweep of the house during the divorce proceedings, tested them for nephrotoxic compounds, and found traces of exactly what the toxicologist had suspected. Emma was arrested 3 months later, charged with attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and a bunch of other crimes I didn't fully understand. She hired an expensive attorney who argued that the evidence was circumstantial, that anyone could have put those compounds in my coffee, that Emma had donated her kidney in good faith and was being persecuted for her generosity. But the message on her burner phone, combined with Jake's testimony and the physical evidence, was enough. She was convicted and sentenced to 8 years in prison, 8 years for destroying my kidneys, manipulating my recovery, and using her own organ donation as a weapon of control. My family reached out after the conviction, tentative, apologetic, ashamed. My mother sent a card that said, "We were wrong, we should have believed you. Can you forgive us?" My sister called crying, begging me to let her back into my life. My dad showed up at my apartment with takeout and beer and said, "I am sorry, son. I'm so damn sorry." I forgave them, because what else could I do? They'd been manipulated just like I had, fooled by Emma's performance of devoted wifehood. But the forgiveness felt hollow, like going through the motions of a relationship that had been fundamentally broken. They'd chosen to believe I was a monster, rather than consider that Emma might not be perfect. That kind of betrayal doesn't heal quickly, if it heals at all. Jake disappeared again after the trial. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd moved to another state, trying to start over somewhere. Nobody knew about his role in the whole disaster. I don't know if he ever forgave himself. I am not sure I care. The weird part, the part that kept me up at night even after Emma was behind bars, was the kidney. I still had her kidney. The organ she'd used to manipulate and control me was still inside my body, keeping me alive. My doctor offered to put me back on the transplant list, to try to find a new donor, but the wait list was years long and there was no guarantee I'd survive that long on dialysis. So I kept it. Her kidney, the evidence of her crime and the tool of my survival, all wrapped up in one fist-sized organ that filtered my blood and reminded me every single day of what she'd done. 2 years after the conviction, I am still alive, still taking anti-rejection meds 3 times a day, still living in my small apartment, working at a new job, seeing Dr. Reeves twice a month to work through the layers of trauma and betrayal and survivor's guilt that come with being poisoned by your wife and saved by her at the same time. I started dating again cautiously. Most women are understanding when I explain the situation. or at least they pretend to be. Some ghost after the first date, probably deciding they don't want the drama of dating someone whose ex-wife is in prison for attempted murder. I don't blame them. It is a lot to take on. The ones who stick around usually want to know if I hate Emma. If I wish she'd never donated the kidney. If I wish I'd just died instead of going through all of this. The truth is more complicated than that. I hate what she did. I hate that she manipulated my life, destroyed my body, and used my gratitude as chains. But do I wish she'd never donated? I don't know. Without her kidney, I'd probably be dead by now. Without her kidney, I'd never have discovered the affair, never have gotten out, never have started this weird, painful, complicated second chance at life. So was I wrong for divorcing my wife after she saved my life? Everyone I ask gives me a different answer. My therapist says no, that I had every right to leave an abusive relationship regardless of the circumstances. My family says no now, but they said yes before they knew the truth. My few remaining friends are split down the middle, some arguing that the donation should have brought her some grace, others pointing out that she only donated because she'd poisoned me in the first place. But here is what I've come to understand, sitting in my apartment at 3 a.m. with her kidney humming away inside me. There is no right answer. I live in a world of infinite greys, where my ex-wife is both my attempted murderer and my lifesaver, where gratitude and rage coexist in the same space, where every breath I take is enabled by the person who tried to destroy me. I divorced her. She saved me. Both things are true, and I have to wake up every morning and live with that paradox, swallow my pills, and figure out how to build a life from the wreckage of the old one. Some days I think I made the right choice. Other days I am not so sure. But I am alive to wonder about it. And that has to count for something. Even if the price of that life is carrying a piece of my abuser inside me until the day I die.